Walk into almost any gym today and you will hear people talking about testosterone. You will hear them saying things like, oh, this guy's got amazing genetics. His testosterone must be through the roof. And then somebody would say, oh, my testosterone is low. This is why I'm not progressing. Testosterone has almost become the universal explanation for everything in bodybuilding. Big muscles, testosterone. Small muscles, low testosterone. Slow progress, must be hormones. But after more than 40 years in bodybuilding, coaching over 3,500 clients, competing 46 times and winning 17 titles, I have learned something very interesting. And that is that most people completely misunderstand what testosterone actually does. And here is the surprising truth. Testosterone creates the environment where muscle growth is possible, but testosterone does not tell muscles to grow. That job belongs to something else entirely. And once you understand that principle, you will be looking at bodybuilding with different eyes. Because muscle doesn't grow because testosterone is present. Muscles grow because they are forced to adapt. And this is an enormous difference. Let's imagine something. Suppose I inject somebody with high dose of testosterone. And that person just sits down and for 6 months doesn't do anything. He's just getting testosterone every couple of weeks, but he's not doing any weights. Now imagine somebody else who doesn't take any testosterone, is completely natural, but goes to the gym 4 or 5 times per week, trains intelligently, stimulates muscle growth with perfect form, right number of reps, right number of sets. And what do you think? Which person will develop more muscles after 6 months? Certainly the second person, the guy who didn't take any testosterone but was training regularly with right intensity and consistency. While the first guy who was taking testosterone every 2 weeks may have gained a little bit of muscle, but absolutely didn't change at all, because testosterone is not the reason for growth. The reason for growth is something else. And this is the same as if you look at the soil. If the soil is fertile, but there is no seed, nothing will be growing there. There is no way that anything can grow just because soil is fertile. This is what testosterone does. It creates the environment, but testosterone is not the seed. Seed is something different. And people spend so much time and so much money trying to optimize something that doesn't make any difference. All kind of supplements, hormone boosters, natural testosterone hacks, even testosterone, cold plunges, special breathing techniques, exotic recovery gadgets. But meanwhile, they completely ignore one thing that actually tells muscle fibers to become larger, and this is mechanical tension. If there is one sentence that I want you to remember from the whole video, is this: muscles don't grow because testosterone is high. They grow because mechanical tension forces them to adapt. Have you ever noticed that some professional bodybuilders who take high amount of steroids do not become Mr. Olympia? Actually, they don't even achieve the body they were expecting they will achieve. Why? Because if steroids, if high testosterone levels were the answer, then they would all be Mr. Olympia. But they are not. At the same time, you probably know somebody who is natural. I know a few natural guys in muscle works in gym where I go. And these people just look phenomenal. You would immediately say, wow, these guys must be on steroids. My son is the same like them. He also looks absolutely phenomenal. And everybody thinks that he is on steroids. He only laughs. My son doesn't even take vitamins. And this is to point out that testosterone is not what makes muscles grow. Testosterone creates environment, but muscles grow because they are responding to mechanical tension, because they were forced to grow. You also need to understand that your muscles, they work like extremely efficient business. They never spend resources unnecessarily, because building muscle is metabolically very expensive. Protein costs energy. Repair costs energy. Recovery costs energy. And if the body doesn't believe that additional muscle is necessary, It would never spend resources creating it. Why would body grow? Why would muscle grow? So it has to be forced. And this is why bodybuilding is ultimately about creating that necessity. So you have to create the necessity for muscle to grow. And the only way is to apply correct mechanical tension. Now let us imagine this and leave bodybuilding for a minute. You are carrying shopping bags almost every day. They are heavy. In the beginning, those bags really cause a problem. Your hands are hardly holding them. Your forearms are giving away because your car is parked somewhere far away from the shopping center. And it's not easy. You need to stop maybe halfway to rest a little bit and then grab the bags again. That happens to everybody. Now, if you repeat that every few days, you will find out that those bags, the same weight, the same bags full of food as you usually buy, they will eventually become lighter. So why did they become lighter? Not because you have injected yourself with testosterone, but because you have created necessity. So your body has made your forearms and your hands much stronger in order to overcome that necessity. So your body has adapted. Your muscles in the hands, in the forearms, have got stronger. They adapted. And that adaptation was forced upon your body, upon your forearms and your hands, simply by repeating the same activity on a regular basis. And this simple example explains almost the entire process of muscle growth. Your body is constantly asking, am I strong enough to handle this? And if the answer is yes, nothing changes. But if the answer is no, adaptation begins. So whenever you exercise, for example, you do biceps curls. If you do biceps curls always with 25 kgs, clearly that muscle will never grow. So you need to increase that load over time, either by adding more reps or doing slower reps or doing more reps or doing more sets and eventually increasing that weight, maybe to 30 kgs. So all this extra demand on the muscle, increased mechanical tension will force the muscle to grow. So where that change happens during your workout, during your sets, this is something that every beginner understood. Imagine you're performing 12 repetitions in a set. Let's say again biceps curls for the sake of an argument. Now what happens? The weight is becoming a bit heavier. You feel it more. It's getting more difficult. Now you're getting 8, 9 reps. Now it's becoming really difficult. Now you're coming to 10, 11, 12. You are coming almost to that last rep, to failure, and you really feel that muscle is really, really difficult. And this is actually what forces the muscle to grow. In the beginning, it was a bit lighter during the first few reps. Then suddenly, the set becomes harder. And when you approach this last rep, 12th rep, near failure, you don't need to go to failure, then you have stimulated the most responsive muscle fibers for growth, which are type 2 muscle fibers, preferably type 2B. You have simply forced that muscle to recruit maximum number of muscle fibers. And this is the reason why training close to failure is most effective. Not because failure itself builds muscle. This is very important to understand. But because approaching failure forces the body to recruit more muscle fibers. And notice the difference. It's not a failure. Maximum fiber recruitment is. So this is the goal. And this is why I tell people not to chase failure, because if you chase failure, ultimately your form will deteriorate, your technique will fall apart, momentum will replace tension, and you will defeat the purpose. And this is happening all the time. I see that everywhere. The goal is not to make exercise harder. The goal is to make muscle work harder. Now let's imagine something that you have seen so many times, most likely. 2 people perform barbell curls. So one is using 50 kgs. He's using this weight just in order to lift it up. Now, when he starts lifting it, his elbows move forward all the way. He leans back, shoulders come up. He uses momentum, uses his hips to help him lift the weight, and then drops the weight down and goes again and drops the weight down. Now, The second guy is using 25 kgs, but he uses it in the perfect form. So he doesn't move his hips. His body is almost still. Slight motion is fine, is necessary at the end of the day, but elbows are not going up. Elbows are staying down, and the weight is moved only by involvement of his biceps. Now, which person you think will stimulate more growth? The one who lifts heavier, or the ones who perform that exercise in a way that forces biceps to come almost to positive failure? Clearly, the second guy who is training intelligently will cause more muscle growth, because on the end of the day, your muscle doesn't know how many plates you have put on that bar. Powerlifting asks how much weight can you move. Bodybuilding asks how much tension you can place on the target muscles. And these are completely different objectives. Once you understand that, exercise selection suddenly becomes much simpler. Now, some people listening may think that I'm saying that testosterone doesn't matter, and this is not what I'm saying at all. Testosterone absolutely matters. Testosterone is one of the hormones that supports muscle protein synthesis, recovery, and adaptation. People who have clinically low testosterone often experience reduced strength, slower recovery, and difficulty maintaining muscle. Restoring testosterone to a healthy physiological levels can improve all these factors. So if your testosterone levels are normal, which probably applies to most of you who are anywhere up to 40 or maybe even older than 40, then everything I have said so far applies to you. Now, if your testosterone levels are low, if you are over 40 or over 50 and your testosterone levels are low, maybe you should start thinking about improving testosterone levels one way or another. But there is a key point. Testosterone influences how much adaptation is possible. Mechanical tension is what gives your body a reason to adapt in the first place. Think of it like constructing a house. So testosterone provides more builders and more building materials. But mechanical tension is the architect's blueprint that says we need to build a bigger house here. Now, without the blueprint, you can have as many builders as you want and as much material as you want, but you won't build anything. You definitely need that blueprint. You need architect's planning. And that blueprint for muscle growth is mechanical tension. So you can have as much testosterone if you want, but the muscle is not going to grow because the blueprint is not there. If you're not training or if you're not training properly, nothing will grow. So you need both. So if mechanical tension is the primary signal for muscle growth and testosterone simply helps your body respond to that signal, how should you actually train? The answer is not a new program. It's not a magical exercise. It's not some super supplements. It's simply learning how to consistently apply that constructive stimulus needed for muscle growth. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen and I'm seeing all the time, and I've already mentioned it, is that constant increase in weight. Heavier, heavier, heavier every week. More weight. They want to be stronger. They feel successful if they lift more. If the ego is satisfied, training is very good. But you need to ask yourself a very important question. Did your muscle actually work harder, or did you simply move more weight? These two things are not the same. Imagine somebody performing bench press. So last week, he was doing, let's say, 100 kgs in 10 perfect repetitions. But he wants to lift heavier. Now next week, he put 110. Now he's not doing 10 repetitions. He dropped down to 7 or 6. Then he wanted more. Then he put 120 in following week. Now he's doing only 3 or 4 repetitions. But his hips are going up, he's bouncing the weight, and he thinks that he's progressing simply because he's lifting heavier. So in his mind, his ego is super happy, and in his mind he thinks that he is progressing. Why? Because he is lifting heavier. But this is not what causes muscle growth. Remember, your chest has absolutely no idea how much weight you have put on that bar. Your chest only knows how much force it was required to produce. While powerlifting measures performance, bodybuilding measures stimulation. And there is also something else that I have to tell you. I also see people who are performing very good, in very good form, moderate weights, perfect muscle stimulation, and for 3-4 weeks they are doing, let's say, bench press. Absolutely everything is perfect. Now I see them next week, they have changed that exercise because suddenly on YouTube somebody came out with some new super exercise with cables or whatever, calling it perfectly biomechanical exercise. They have changed, and then in 3 or 4 weeks they change it again. But this is not how muscle growth is caused. You cannot just keep changing exercises every single week because somebody came out and discovered something new. A violinist does not change his violin every 3 weeks. He is trying to master his skill in playing that violin, but he is using the same violin for years, for decades. Exercises are the same. Is not changing the exercise, as people often do, is mastering that particular exercise, constantly improving your form, pace, improving your mind-muscle connection, feeling the weight in your muscles, feeling the movement, fully stretching under the load. And that will obviously give you an opportunity to improve your progressive overload, and over time, using perfect form, start lifting a little bit heavier. Also, very important thing to understand is that your muscles are actually growing outside the gym, not in the gym. In the gym, you are stimulating growth by breaking down muscle fibers, but they will recover and eventually grow outside. So instead of complicating things and constantly asking questions like what is the perfect supplement, what is the perfect hormonal level, what is the perfect pre-workout, post-workout, perfect training split, you need to start asking different questions. Am I progressively increasing the challenge? It's very important. Am I training the targeted muscle properly? If you are cheating, if you are training your ego, this is not going to happen. Now, you should ask the question, am I recovering sufficiently? Because if you don't recover, you will never grow. Am I eating enough protein? Am I patient enough? Am I consistent? Am I motivated? So all these questions are absolutely necessary because bodybuilding and muscle growth are not just gym. They are complete lifestyle. And everything that happens outside the gym is actually where your muscles will be growing. So it's not only workout, but everything else that comes after. Now, when people look at Arnold, Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, Serge Nubre, they often focus on details. They look at exercises, number of sets, repetition, their split, supplements. But I believe that all these great bodybuilders have understood something much deeper. They simply found a way to keep giving their muscles a reason to adapt. Their methods may have changed, but principles never did. Some of them trained with enormous volume, some with relatively lower volume. Some preferred free weights. Some professional bodybuilders are extremely successful using more machines. Yet all of them built extraordinary physiques. Why? Because the body doesn't respond to training styles. It responds to biological principles. The principles never changed, only the methods. Now, if you're evaluating every exercise, every set, and every repetition by asking one question, does this genuinely give my muscles a reason to adapt? And if answer is yes, you are moving in the right direction. Now let us go back to the question that I asked at the beginning of this video. What really builds muscle? Testosterone? No. Testosterone is important. It supports recovery, it supports protein synthesis, adaptation, but testosterone is not the message, is the environment. The message is mechanical tension. Every workout sends the message to your body. Every repetition tells your muscles one of two things. Either I am already strong enough to perform this, or I need to become stronger. Because if you force that muscle with better form, with slower reps, if you force the muscle to perform something harder, the muscle has to become stronger, and in that sense, it will also become bigger. And this is why two people with similar genetics can end up looking completely different. One trains with purpose, another simply exercises. One understands the principles, the other simply chasing trends. One gives body a compelling reason to change, while the other person hopes that simply working hard will be enough. Working hard without the right stimulus is simply hard work, which I always call laboring. And laboring is not training. So bodybuilding, intelligent approach to training is something very different than laboring or just training hard. Bodybuilding is not about the heaviest weight. It's not about spending the longest time in the gym. It's not about finding the perfect supplement. It's about understanding how your body makes decisions. And once you understand that, you stop guessing. You stop copying other people, you stop chasing shortcuts, and instead every workout becomes intentional and every repetition has a purpose. And this is what real muscle growth really is. It's not a gift from testosterone, not luck, not magic, simply your body's intelligent response to a challenge that it cannot longer ignore. So after more than 40 years in bodybuilding, competing myself 46 times, winning 17 titles, and coaching over 3,500 clients and helping them to get in the best shape of their lives, I have published for you 13 ebooks which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you're interested in deepening your knowledge and expanding your horizons, click on the link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. I have also published for you Bodybuilding Blueprint course, in which I personally demonstrate and explain the most effective exercises for all muscle groups. So if you want to learn how to exercise in perfect form and stop wasting time in the gym, click on the link in the comments and you can access my Bodybuilding Blueprint course. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and also send me your comments, and I will see you in the next video.